not very original. Yeah.
Talk about life.
Life?
Life.
I'm sorry? Laugh? Like? Lying?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you have a boyfriend? Are you always honest? So when you look at him and he says, I love you, do you say, I love you back? And you mean it all the time? But that's a big lie right there. But that's okay. Okay, lying is one. Anyone else?
Honestly, what made you grow the facial hair? I'm just looking at you, I looked at you all last year without it, and it's really shocking. Did you just get tired of shaving?
I just got tired, period.
Hey, I know that feeling.
You know, this past weekend on Saturday, I went to visit my parents, my sister, my brother, and my sister was kind enough to invite my teacher's wife. My teacher passed away a couple years ago, cancer, and she's a recluse. She's an introvert. Her father got his law degree during the Stone Age era back home. And he was very harsh with the kids, that they should always stay home, they should always study. Anyways, she went into the world of art. She's a great painter, classical painting. And so this weekend, we asked her, so what do you do? How's it going? She says, I stay home all the time and I write and I read. And I'm in contact with my students. She also teaches. Do you see anyone? Do you go out there to visit our friends? Because we've been friends for about 40 years and we have mutual friends out there. She says, no, I have really no need for them. I'm quite busy reading and spending time on things that I find to be beneficial and productive. And it makes you think once in a while, that you have a group of people who just entertain others, and you have a group of people who entertain themselves. And I suppose there comes a point in your life where you're just tired of entertaining other people. They come to your house, they eat your food, they take your time, they take your energy. And then before you go to bed, you take a shower to just wash everything away, the memories and the experience of the people who just invaded and occupied your house for a number of hours. I mean, it's fun hanging out with other people. I guess I'm trying to answer your question about my beard. Sometimes you hang out with young people and you want to be relevant, so you shave. And sometimes you say, the hell with them. Let them think and feel I'm like a century older than they are. So, there are pros and cons. You get older, you stop caring. That has some isolating qualities to it. But if you're able to kind of use that isolation in a productive way, then it's good for you. Yeah, you don't want to be isolated when you're young. When you're young, you want to go out there and just waste your time, waste your life, and it's fun. And then they get to be our age, and then you say, WDH, or WDF, or WFT, or E, I guess so. Anyone else?
To ask about authenticity and solitude, because they're kind of already going there.
Okay, we can talk about authenticity, solitude, and of course lying. Okay. Anyone else before we do authenticity? Yeah, Reese? Loneliness? Good. Authenticity? What was the other part? Solitude, loneliness, and lying. Okay. Anyone else? Kendra?
Like, since reflection is always looking backward, at least something where it's accompanied by this feeling that it's too late.
It's too late. Let's say you like to go by the pronoun they, and you've mentioned this to me 50,000 times, and you come to class and I say she, and then you get really, really upset, and then you remind me of all the things you've told me before that please call me they, not she. This particular type of reflection really has to do with the fact that you have forced me to feel bad about myself and how I behaved, how I spoke. And then you create a good amount of guilt inside me, and then you storm out the door. I'm not talking about the sort of reflection that another causes that produces guilt and shame, and you want to go back in time and correct the past. So I can kind of send you 50 emails saying, Kendra, I'm really, really sorry. I misspoke. I should have called you they, but I just called you she. I'm sorry. Then to some extent, maybe I'm doing that because I don't want you to go visit the dean, file a complaint, because that's just a complete waste of time, yours and mine. The other kind of reflection that's, I think, a bit more enjoyable, creates more loneliness, maybe authenticity, you stop lying to yourself, all that is, you know, Kevin is a 76-year-old man. You know, he's 50-some. He has a daughter. He's been in a few relationships. And is it true that once in a while he suffers and is hurt by the pangs of being alone, feeling lonely, maybe sad, maybe depressed? Absolutely. Does he go back in time and review his past and come to a place where he becomes even more sad and depressed? Yes. Does he desire to date, perhaps find someone who is a bit compatible? Yes. Upon reflection, he sits back and says, I'm carrying 12 units, I have a job, I have a daughter, everything keeps me so busy. I don't really have time to create history, create relationship with anyone. And the more you reflect about this, about your life, about time, about energy, about where you are in life, the sort of people involved in your life, you realize you've kind of accepted the fact that you've made some errors in your life, but you're very focused on the present and the crosses you have to carry, the cross of raising a child, the cross of carrying 12 units and passing all the classes. Add to it the fact that he goes back in time and says, okay, when I was 20, I dated so-and-so, and that didn't go well. When I was 35, I dated so-and-so, then 40, then 50, then 60. And then he also has the ability to kind of process all these different experiences that, yes, I know how dating begins. You go out there somewhere, and it's not because you're really proficient in relationships, sustaining them, nourishing them. You're just lonely, you're a social animal, you want to look at someone once in a while, you want to talk to someone, you want to lay next to them. All of it begins with a sense of attraction. Then you spend some time, then you desire them. Then you become curious about who they are, what they are, you know, where they've been, where they're going. And then as you spend more time with them, even if they're simply like a dog, you grow attachment. And attachment means when you look at them, you see your own reflection, bits and pieces of it. And then you want to kind of continue nourishing that. And of course, you're attached to it. Good morning, Abhi. And then a couple of months later, you look at this person and say, I love you, and he or she or it will look back and say, I love you too. Whether they're lying or they're being honest, who the hell knows? And then 2, 3, 4, 5 months pass by, and you realize the politics of life have kind of devoured this intense emotion that gave you wings, made you a poet, made you creative, made you suffer in silence and be forgiving and compassionate because you were in love. And so things fizzle out, and you're just involved in the everyday activities of relationship, any of them. And so he says, at the age of 50-some, do I really want to go back and do all that stuff again? You know, because initially in the relationship, fine, it's interesting, but then it's really about changing diapers every single 10 minutes. There are going to be conflicts, and he's no longer a young man. He's not 20, he's a 50-some-year-old guy, and he's not going to date a 20-year-old unless he's got issues. He's going to date someone, maybe late 30s, maybe 40s, maybe even 50s. And you're talking about a station in life where who you are and what you are formed. They're like dry, hard concrete. And it's like two pieces of concrete meshing together harmoniously. There are going to be lots of jagged edges. And so from this point on, he's got to do a lot of grinding. And he says, do I really want to spend the next 10 years of my life, getting rid of all the rough edges so I can look at this person and feel comfortable? My life is already busy. I don't need more crap in my life. And so before even the relationship begins, he just walks away. Now, the problem with that particular relationship is that you go into the past, you study the past, you observe, you take notes, you graduate from that particular understanding of your past, and then you live with it, and it's inside you now. Then you go out there to a coffee shop, and it triggers you. And by trigger, I mean all the stuff that you've understood comes to the surface, and you say, okay, I'm attracted to this person, but I know this narrative. I know exactly how it's going to work out. I also know what my life contains at this point. Do I want to get involved? And your observation of the past and your understanding projects itself into the future as well as the present, and say, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it. That's a good observation to have. In regards to going to the past and figuring out a few things that make you feel guilty, and then going to the person and saying, I apologize, not necessary. People are not worth it. Of course, you won't know that because you have a lot of time on your hand. So you want to correct things with everyone. Just wait till you get a little older. People don't matter. They never did. Authenticity. Okay? So let's do this in a variety of different ways. Let's look at it historically, then temperamentally, and then life's events, and then when someone who has some power walks into our life and tell us to be like them. Okay. I think all of us in this class have, once in a while, this desire to become authentic, to be honest, to take only classes that inspire us, to stay with our companion only because we love them, not because we're just used to them, to write essays that ooze out of our soul or genius or creativities, but for the most part, we don't find ourselves in those particular spaces, so we have no choice but to just lie throughout the life. once in a while you encounter someone who just has an uneasy feeling about who and what they are. I don't know how that happens, you know. And I say that because you don't find very many Malcolm X's, and you don't find very many Socrates, and you don't find very many Jesus Christs. There's just something wrong with these people. And I don't know what it is. I don't know why, when you have everything on your plate, when you have a home, when you have a wife or a husband and kids and a job and everything is going well, you just feel miserable. You feel hollow from the inside. I mean, Socrates is a young kid. He's just unhappy, discontent. He feels as if there is something missing. Why, how, I don't know. You know, most of us are able to distract ourselves by drinking, smoking, juggling, you know, having sex, going to classes, doing all sorts of things. But not Socrates, not Plato, not Malcolm X, not Gandhi. There is something about these people that they have a couple of screws loose. I mean, they're good because they make the rest of us elevate, they pull us up. But they also make us feel guilty, and they make us feel bad for the sort of human beings that we've turned out to be. Now, when you talk about authenticity, the truth is it's a gift that's reserved for only a few, a handful of people in every generation. Now, I know it's a bumper sticker today where everybody's out there wants to be authentic and creative and inspiring and all that, you know. So you have these introverts. And introverts are awful human beings. First, because they're always alone. Even if they're in the company of 50,000 people, they're always, always, always alone. They feel uneasy in their own bodies. They have a tendency of having a profoundly dark and gloomy outlook about basically everything. You know, at first, of course, they're like Don Juan or Soren Kierkegaard, where they drink too much, they are the son of every party. They're profoundly melancholic, but they have a great sense of humor because that's the mask that they wear. They're funny, but in fact, they're not funny people at all.
Out of my head.
And so they're always in the pursuit of something. The other aspect of the introvert is that they can only take orders for so long. They're a yes person for only so long until they explode. They say, no, I want to figure things out on my own. You know, and one of the things that you'll find about young children, like Kevin, is basically that, you know, they scream for help because they want to be fed, because they want to stand up and they want your finger, they want your hand to hold onto. They get to be 2 or 3 or 4 and they will slap your hand away. And every time you try to go to them and cuddle them and, you know, help them in some sort of way, they say, no, I want to figure this out on my own. And so initially, I suppose all human beings desire to hold someone's hand. And if they happen to be an introvert, they kind of lash out. They explode and say, no, no more. I don't want to do this anymore. And if, I suppose, you were to connect it to the life story of Jesus, even though I'm not quite sure what the story is, but there are lots of books out there assuming that they have access to this history that no one else has, but they do. That I suppose, you know, for the first 12 years, he was okay with just being a yes man. Yes, mom, yes, dad, Yahweh is there, Elohim is there, El Shaddai is there. Yes, I'm going to go to the synagogue every day, but the age 12 comes forth and he says, the hell with all of this. I want to figure out things for my own. You know, and his story is very much like Moses. Moses is going out there to figure out who he really is. He no longer cares what the Pharaoh tells him. He no longer cares what his own mother tells him. He no longer cares what the shepherds tell him. He just wants to figure things out on his own. And it's a very devastating place to be because, you know, there's a nice thing about living in society. There is a stoplight, there are traffic lights, there are traffic signs, there are stores, there are books, there are all sorts of places you can go to. And those places that you go to, they'll tell you where to go, what to do, who you are, what you are. You know, but the moment you say, the hell with 5,000 years of cultural narratives, assalamu alaikum. You know, what you're saying is, Like Noah, humanity has been demolished by the gods. I am on my own. I'm going to kind of figure out life on my own. That's a very difficult place because now you have to be the generator, creator of ideas, and you have to have the stamina to make a good amount of mistakes and be okay with it. And you have to have a good amount of resources. And, you just need to have a thick skin, and not too many people have that. And it's one thing to tell your parents, okay, Mom, I'm 18, I'm an adult now. So I want to go out there and figure things out. Okay, well, you go out there. Well, what do you have? You have zero money. You have no education. You're a loser. Your friends are losers. And in a couple of months, you'll turn out to be a drug addict or an alcoholic living in the middle of the street somewhere. Is it true that your life may transform at a certain point? Yeah, it's true. But for the majority of us, your life just turns into trash. Okay? Now, so that's one way of the desire to want to become authentic, that you're an introvert, there's something wrong with the way you've been wired by life, by God, and you're only happy for a few short minutes, and then you open your eyes and you say, life is miserable. And your mom looks at you and says, your belly is full, you should be thankful. So yeah, I'm thankful, but I'm just miserable. And your dad comes home and says, your mom did your laundry, you should be thankful. Yeah, I'm thankful, but life is miserable. You have your health. Your brother has cancer, he's in the hospital. Enjoy your life. Well, I'm trying to, I just don't know what that means. And it seems like everybody's trying to kind of give you a recommendation, some ways for you to kind of get out of this gloomy mood, but your temperament, your wiring just won't let you. It's not that you won't laugh. It's not that you won't have a good time once in a while, but for the most part, you're just down and out. Now, it could be your brain chemistry. Maybe you need drugs, you need to go to Kaiser. Maybe you need a companion. Or maybe you just need to go into the desert like Jesus or Moses or Malcolm X. You need to figure things out on your own. The problem with being in the desert is not too many people start in Oakland, walk into the desert, survive the desert, and come back to the city life, Oakland. Most people just perish in the desert. So just because you're wired as an introvert and you want to figure out what you're really good at, what your genius is, the truth is you'll just die before knowing it. It doesn't mean you can't write well, but most of it is like you doing therapy on yourself, and there is nothing wrong with that.
That's sort of like a moment of clarity.
Yeah. The right things, you mean? Yeah. It doesn't mean anything, but yeah. Then you have another kind of quest for authenticity, and let me use Michel Foucault for a moment. Foucault was this thinker. I don't really like him that much, but nevertheless, you can use other people's life story as I suppose some signs out there that you can learn from, hopefully. Foucault's father was a rich man. His social status was also quite way up there. He was a surgeon, and he wanted his son to be a surgeon as well, but he couldn't. Foucault had a lot of anger issues. And he came to realize he's gay. His father didn't like it. His society didn't like it. I suppose he himself didn't know really what to do with it. It's like if at my age I came to realize that I'm not a he but a she. And imagine that particular realization is very, very intense. Very intense. Well, I've lived about 60 years of my life as a man. And being a man, I've created a history as a man. I'm married, I have children, I have parents, I have friends, and they've all referred to me as a he. Add to it the fact that I have a history with all the people I've mentioned. It's a 60-year history. I'm not quite sure how they're going to deal with this transition now, if they're still going to call me, if they're still going to reply to my text. And because I don't know how things are going to unfold, as Idris would say, all of a sudden I find myself in this very, very isolated, lonely place. It's dark, I'm angry, I'm confused, and I don't know what to do with all this stuff. And so he was so angry that he left his father or parents. He ran after a roommate with a knife to stab him. He tried to commit suicide a few times. And then all of this alarmed his father, and his father got him a therapist. And eventually he came to realize, yes, he is gay. He came to realize he should accept his homosexual tendencies, and he did. And then he experimented with drugs, a lot of drugs. He had orgies. He had sex with underage kids, boys. Very, very, very troubled life. Did he write some beautiful literature? Absolutely. Did he gravitate towards Marxist philosophy? Yes. Was he to some extent a revolutionary? Yeah. So I suppose you could say some aspects of your desire for authenticity has to do with this uneasiness about your own sexual orientation. I mean, human beings are enormously complicated animals, and we don't really know what the hell to do with ourselves. And one of the nice things about society and the civilized world is, you're angry, go watch a UFC boxing match. You have this urge to be intimate, but you're undigestible as a human being. Well, there is pornography, go watch it for half hour. Because society creates diseases and society offers you remedies. And so I remember when I was in India, when you walk, and we usually walk barefoot. And so what happened is, as you're walking, your skin touches poison ivy. And then all of a sudden you have all this rash appearing on your body, on your skin. And then right next to this plant that makes your body itch all over the place, there is also another plant that just grows right next to it. It's like a sister, right there. And you just kind of grab some, and you rub it on your skin, and everything goes away, and you're back to normal. And that's what society does. Society creates sickness about you, and then it says, well, these are the ways you can remedy it. I will create for you loneliness. There is therapy. I will sexualize you extremely by the time you're 5, and then I'll give you cartoons to watch. Okay. The sort of authenticity that I suppose we should talk about, and it's, I think, much more important, is the following. When we talk about Socrates, he lives in a society that's intact. Religion is there. Parents are there. Friends are there. To some extent, people trust their government. There is no real violence out there. People are not isolated, they're not depressed, they're not on medication. It's a relatively healthy environment, but once in a while, out of this relatively healthy environment, you have a human being coming out saying, I'm miserable. I mean, consider, for example, again, the life of Muhammad or the life of Moses or the life of Jesus. Everything's fine. But for some strange reason, they have this inner quest just bubbling inside them. And society doesn't have any answers. And they find themselves completely disappointed in all the history that lives in their society, and they walk away. It's like you look at your companion of 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and you say, I like him, I've been with him, I have a history of 50 years, but I'm walking away. And that's exactly what Muhammad does, that's what Jesus does, that's what Malcolm does. All these people do the same thing. Now, when you ask about authenticity in the 21st century, 2023, these are the things you need to consider. Words and concepts have a psychological history. Very much every culture that has a history. When you ask a question, that question is the outcome of certain historical experiences, personally, culturally. When you look at society today, what can you hold on to? What can you grab onto that brings your life some meaning and value? You know. So divorce rate is about 64%, let's just say 65%. Suicide is on the rise, depression is on the rise, loneliness is on the rise, violence is on the rise. All the awful things, you know, it's, if you go back to the story of Zeus and his gift to Pandora, Pandora is getting married to, I don't know if it's Prometheus or Epimetheus, and on the box, Zeus writes, "Don't open." And Pandora is just known to be curious. She opens the lid of this box and all the awful things come out. Hate comes out, anger comes out, violence comes out, jealousy comes out. And the last component that's about to come out, which is hope, the lid all of a sudden closes. The hope does not come out. And so when you look for authenticity in 21st century, you ask yourself, okay, what do people have? Hello, Lewis. I go back to the movie Wall Street. I think it's the second movie or the third. So you got no savings, you got no parents, you don't have politicians who care for you, you don't have education that educates you, you have nothing. But what you have are a number of bumper stickers out there like Jordan Peterson, like Sadhguru, like Eckhart Tolle, like all the instructors you have at Laney and all the other places, that you can be all that you want. Just focus, you know the Nike ad, just do it. Well, who gives us these bumper stickers? Well, the people who are giving us all these ideas of authenticity are those who are rich. They're sitting at the mountaintop looking at the rest of us down here and say, yeah, you want to graduate, you want to get a PhD, it's easy. Just focus, take your classes and go. That's not the way it works. People have to deal with emotional issues. They have to deal with physical issues. There are 1,001 different obstacles out there. You have someone who's 18 and then you have someone who's 818. And as you age, your mental capacity just diminishes. And yet what you have about all these bumper stickers is that they keep harassing you in the sense that they keep telling you you can be all that you want. And the truth is you can't be all that you want. Maybe you're not the type that needs authenticity. Maybe you just need to mimic. Maybe you just need to plagiarize. And I gotta tell you, there is nothing wrong with plagiarism. For those of you in this class who, Wolf, go to her and say, I want to be an authentic tattoo artist. And you know what she'll do for the first 5 years? She'll tell you, you gotta plagiarize. You gotta do everything that I do. Mimic it well. Be a carbon copy of everything that I am. And if you become as good as she is, okay, then she says to you, if she happens to be an honest instructor, she says, listen, I got nothing else to offer you. You go out there and you begin your own experimentation. You have the resources, you have the proficiency. Now you can be creative. Now you can be authentic. But your authenticity revolves around the fact that she trained you for 5 years. She cared for you. She nourished you. She sustained you. She gave you all the tricks to the profession. Now you can go out there and be creative. Today what you have is 300 million incompetent people who are not good at anything, but all walking around saying, I want to be true to myself. I want to be honest. I want to be authentic. I want to be creative. Well, are you good at anything? No, and I don't want to copy anyone. Well, damn, you walk because you copy. You write because you copy. You talk because you copy someone. If you don't mimic what other people have for some time, you will never be good. I mean, there is nothing wrong with being a Christian. Mimic You know, all the stuff you read in the Gospels, mimic them for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That's great for you. But don't let that become a prison for you. You know, there has to become a time where she sees the talent inside you and says, you know what? You can be better than I am. Go out there and figure things out on your own. And now when you go out there, you have the resources, you have the tools. And there are moments where she looks at you and says, you know what? You should just do and continue to do what I've taught you for the rest of your life until you get arthritis and just die. You don't have a creative bone about you. And that's going to be very difficult for you to accept. But the truth is, most of us are not very creative. You know, it's like a gift. I don't know how it's given to people and why. You know. So I think your question about authenticity, your question about existentialism, about the quest for meaning. You know, you have some guy like Kierkegaard. He lives in Denmark. There are all these Christians walking around, and it's a good culture. You know, but he just looks around and says, no, you know, you guys just worship the letter of the law. I'm going to teach you the spirit of the law. I mean, imagine a Christian trying to tell other Christians that they're hypocrites. Just one guy, Kierkegaard. You know. Now, what's wrong with him? He's an introvert. You know. And if the stories are right about him, he tried very much like Foucault to commit suicide a few times. And maybe he did in writing his books. You know. But our notion of existentialism and our desire for existentialism, or the quest for meaning today, is really because what you really, really want is your father to come back to your life. What you really want is, you just want a boyfriend. Or you want to have some money. Or you want someone out there to just love you for 10 minutes. You know, so you can just be out of this depressed mood for a few moments. But when none of those things are available, you say, I'm questing after meaning. No, you're not questing after meaning. You're lonely, isolated, pathetic, depressed. What you need is friendship. You want meaning? Go find a few friends. The problem with that is if you've been in the habit of isolating yourself, living in a cave, it's very tough for you to come out and say hello to people in a nice way. You know, you just say hello, it's, you know, some ridiculous decorum you try to honor. It doesn't really mean anything, you know, and God forbid if you happen to be a little older, you know, what is he going to do at his age? You know, he doesn't have time to go out there with someone like every single day, sit and have a conversation for 5 hours. For him, it's a quick stop. Every goddamn thing out there, for him, is a quick stop. Hi, bye, hi, bye, hi, bye. And when you have a hi, bye life, well, there is no way you can build a relationship. Fuck. Are we? Good luck to all of you. Lying.